Hey, how's it going, guys? Just want to come on here. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I just want to come on here talk about a couple of things, man. Where I want to start is I want to start with people like Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, Candace Owens. Um, what's his name? Stephen A. Smith, the sports commentator guy. Tom Bilyeu or Bilio, Chris Williamson, and just several other well-known podcasters, right? That you know they some of them claim to lean more to the right, others claim to be centrist and whatever. But what they all have in common, right, is they all claim to have voted for Trump, right? They all claim to have voted for President Trump. And now with everything going on, uh, a lot of them are kind of backtracking and they're kind of, saying, hey, this isn't what we voted for. We said deport illegals, but what we really meant was deport only the criminals that are illegal. Um, we said no new wars, but, you're starting wars with Iran and Venezuela. And, you know, oh yeah, America first, but you're doing everything for the state of Israel, the Jews, blah 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 blah. Right? It's an interesting time, guys, that we're living in. This is what I want to say about all that. Right? First of all, I don't know where the hell they got this idea that we only wanted the people that came into this country illegally that have broken a secondary law on top of that first law, which is you came illegally, to get deported. That's not what I voted for. I've been a Trump supporter since 2016, and a lot of these people that jumped on the bandwagon in 2024 because they saw how bad it got under the Democrats, not President Biden, under the Democrats, with censorship, with everything. I mean, it was just total authoritarian, right? And so they got scared and they were like, bro, we can't do this again because this is going bad. And so they jumped on the Trump bandwagon. And well, guess what? Guess what happened? Censorship rolled back. A lot of this weird trans stuff rolled back. A lot of this weird gay stuff, DEI stuff got rolled back. I mean, overall, in my opinion, I am stoked with how things are going. I'm happy. I can't be happier. If anything, I think I've said in the past, one of my past videos, my only problem is I would love for President Trump to go harder, harder, more extreme. Because I just, like, man, deploy the military to every single state, grab these people, get them the hell out of our country, right? I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care what God they pray to. Get them the F out of this country. And so you have like Joe Rogan having buyer's remorse. We're like, well, when he said deport illegals, I I was under the assumption that it was just going to be the criminals that are breaking the law, this and that. Like, no, Joe Rogan, no, no, Mister. I voted Democrat in California my entire life. I voted Democrat in Los Angeles my entire life. I helped to destroy the city by voting for everything Democrat, no matter how extreme it sounded, no matter how crazy it sounded. I created Los Angeles. And on top of that, I kept telling everybody how amazing it was. And I kept calling right wingers tinfoil hats and Bible thumpers. And then when shit hits the fan and things get a little too real for him and everything that he was pedestalizing came to fruition, he's like, whoa, this shit is crazy. Let me move to Texas with these tinfoil hatters and these Bible thumpers and let me go hang out with them. Right? And all of them have done it. Every single one of them. All of them. All these so-called liberals and progressives that jumped on the Trump bandwagon that are now being like, well, we didn't want no new wars. We only wanted the criminals that are illegal aliens deported. Like, no, bro, no. You can't jump on this train late in the game and think you're going to change the agenda. The agenda is the agenda. America first, man. And that means getting rid of all these people that are here illegally. And then the ones that are here legally and got naturalized or their green card or permanent residency that are waving Mexican flags, Iranian flags, all these other flags that aren't the American flag, they need to be denaturalized and removed from my country, our country. And one thing that I absolutely hate, guys, is that everything gets diluted down to Trump. When Trump does something, it's for the betterment of Trump. If Trump does something and they think it's negative, it's in the detriment to Trump. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. If President Trump does something and it benefits President Trump, that means it benefits the country. It's the same thing when we have any president in office. If they do something that's successful, it's not just successful for them, but it's successful for the country. As a country, we elevate. But these people, they can't help but revolve everything around President Trump. Everything is President Trump. And it's amazing because as much as they're starting to claim to hate him, or even prior to jumping on the bandwagon when they weren't a fan of his, they could never shut up talking about him. And so it's the craziest thing where you have to start believing that these people are obsessed with our president. Maybe there's some form of envy there, some jealousy. There's something going on because every single day it's President Trump, President Trump, President Trump. Everything good that happens, oh, well, it's benefiting him. He's making money. Although the outcome is beneficial for all of America, they only want to tie that to him. If he makes a decision that maybe didn't pan out the way it works, oh, this hurts President Trump. Look at him. No, guys. Because that decision was intended for the betterment of America. And if it didn't work out, that means America got the short end of the stick. You understand? Like, I really hope I'm explaining this correctly, because I'm not the best person with words. I'm not going to pretend to be this intellect or, intellectual or anything like that. I'm just not, right? I'm just a guy that likes to observe things. I'm open-minded. I like listening to all the haters of any topic, and I love listening to the people that are the most optimists about a topic. I just like getting the full story and then building my own opinions from there and letting time go by so that way I can, really genuinely get a sense of what's happening. And the truth is, there's too many people that are obsessed with President Trump, and it's really hard to understand why, right? The guy is not the end-all be-all of everything. I do think, in my opinion, that the guy's doing a phenomenal job. Now, here's where I do break from President Trump. With the whole Venezuela thing, amazing. Amazing. And amazing. And it looks like the same thing's going to happen or in the process of happening with Cuba, right? It looks like that's already in the works, and it might be done by summer, where Cuba completely opens up and we essentially establish it as a territory. And that would be amazing, not just for America, but for anybody that ran away from Cuba that wants to go home and see their family, right? And it's the same thing that's going on with Iran. Like, does the Iran conflict benefit America? It does. Anybody that says it doesn't, they're not paying attention, but it does. For a long time, Iran has been the primary aggressor in regards to terrorism, funding terrorism, starting crap with Israel, which for some reason we're tied to. I don't understand, but they're the, you know what? When things go down, Israel's right there. You can say anything you want about Israel, bro, but when stuff hits the fan, Israel is there. And so if we're being completely honest, if I have a group of friends and any time I come across a conflict and there's only one person out of 20 that claim to be my friend, but there's only one that's willing to stand toe to toe with me, and not just stand, but actually go to blows, I only have one friend. And what we're finding now is we really, at the end of the day, we really do only have one friend in the Middle East, and that does appear to be Israel. And so the enemy of my friend's enemy is my enemy. And the truth is, bro, if I was an Israeli citizen and I lived in Israel and I had to have an iron dome around my country because every day there's 40 mortars or rockets being shot into my country by my neighbor, I would want them dead too. Like, imagine Mexico shooting 50 rockets, mortars, or whatever you want to call them. Don't care. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Who cares? But imagine Mexico launching stuff over the border to hit our country and kill people. Bro, we would have massacred that whole country already. We would have massacred them. And this wouldn't have we wouldn't have waited 20, 30, 40 years to do a response. It would have been the next day. It would have been that day. So I understand if you really try to empathize and put yourself in place of the Israelis. Bro, a country is shooting rockets into your country. You have to have an iron dome that blocks them. You have freaking bomb shelters throughout the entire country, just in case one gets through. Yeah, if I was an Israeli, I'd want them all dead too, right? And anybody that's funding these people, giving them weapons, giving them supplies, I'd want them dead too. And that just so happens to be Iran. On top of that, you do the trickle effect of how this keeps causing problems with all the Arab states. It just creates massive amount of just chaos, right? And so what I'm starting to hear people talk about, and I'm not going to pretend I'm this geopolitical strategist. I'm not. But I am a guy that listens to everybody. But the truth is, the larger picture with Iran is we are actually at war with China right now. We are. Nobody wants to admit it. But we are at war with China. We are at a hot war with China. But what we're doing is we're taking out its proxy, which is Iran. By destroying Iran, we made China so much weaker. And anybody that says China's not a threat, a danger, guys, China owns half of our politicians. China is directly in business with the cartels, which is moving fentanyl into our country, moving gangsters into our country. Right? And I heard a great podcast a while back where this guy was, he was talking about fentanyl. And he said that everybody is getting it wrong in regards to fentanyl. He said fentanyl is not a drug. Cocaine is a drug. Heroin is a drug. Crack is a drug. Right? There's lots of drugs. Fentanyl is not a drug. Fentanyl is a chemical weapon. And I really want you guys to think about that. The tip of that pin, that's all the fentanyl you need to consume in order to die. The tip. You consume that amount of fentanyl, you're going to die. And after he went on to explain and do his whole discussion with on this podcast, I actually agree with him. Fentanyl should not be classified as a drug because it's not a drug. It's a chemical weapon. It's a chemical weapon that masks itself as a drug because these people get a significant high off of it. And for that very reason alone, we should be at war with China because they are killing our citizens using the cartels and our southern border to kill our citizens, to traffic this chemical weapon into our country. Here's the problem. If we do a direct war with China, it's going to be an immense war. We can take out China. It's just not going to be easy. It's going to lead to massive, massive death across the world. So in order to prevent a direct hot war with China, from my understanding, the strategy is to weaken it to where you make them go 20 steps back. You weaken its economy, its people, its system. You drain it of resources. You do everything to turn it into Cuba. And that's what Iran is really about. Iran is about China. It's not about Iran. There's secondary benefits to it, like the people get a chance to, get rid of its theocrats. And that's good. I talked about that in my previous podcasts. I know people from Iran, and they hate the government. They hate everything about it. They hate the way that you do the wrong thing. You look the wrong way. They're going to kill you. Not just kill you. They're going to kill your whole family. And it's enough to be said that you live in a dictatorship or something where there's just intense theocracy when the government builds walls and safeguards to prevent you from getting out of the country. When you build walls to keep people out of your country, that's usually when you're the freest societies. Right? Because you're like, hey, we need to protect this. This is what we have is good. When you build walls to keep people out and you're like, okay, we can allow you in slowly, but we got to know who you are. That's when you live in the freest systems. But when you build walls and you build, no-go zones and whatnot along the border of your country, and anybody that tries to leave your country gets killed, that's the ultimate sign of, you live under a dictatorship. You live under something that's very dark. Because they can't afford to have people, their country, their people just leave en masse. Right? And for the most part, people that are willing to leave their country and then go back to their country under the same dictatorship rule, they don't really live under a threat. What they're doing is they're just moving because of economic reasons, right? The dictatorship or whatever you want to call it, don't care. That they live under is just crushed their economy so bad that there's no chance for prosperity, so they leave. But it's not bad enough where these guys aren't willing to go back after making a little bit of money, see their family, whatnot. And so Iran is the ultimate form of it, where you can't leave the country. It's the same thing with North Korea. We have numerous examples today of this actually being in existence. And so I'm happy for the people that they get a chance, right? And if anybody ever listens to this, and they have an ear to President Trump, my plea to him is we're good. We helped out the people already. We took out 3 layers of leadership. It's the people's job now. They need to go out there. They need to fight. They need to die for their freedom. The Khomeini's gone. The Khomeini, whatever, the Khomeini, whatever, I don't know his name, bro. It's something like that. All of them are dead. A lot of them are fleeing. It's up to the people now to change their future. We did our part. The Straits of Hormuz, we don't get oil from there. Who cares about securing the Strait of Hormuz? It's not our problem. China, they get 90%, what they said 20% of oil, 90%. I don't know. There's several numbers floating around. I don't care how much they get, but they get a lot of freaking oil from Iran. Guess what? I don't care. Let China secure the Strait of Hormuz. Let the Brits, the UK, the France, Germany, all the people that get their oil from Iran, let them go and secure the Strait of Hormuz. It's not our problem. Who cares? We went in, we killed them, gave the people a second chance. We weakened China. We, strengthened Israel. We took out a lot of the proxies already. Like, to me, it seems like we're good to go. Now, I understand that there's a larger picture there that hasn't been communicated. And so I voted for President Trump. I trust him to do what he feels needs to be done. But if he left now, I would be good with him. Like, we're good, and it's only been 3 weeks. Right? The Strait of Hormuz is not our problem. I don't care if the EU crashes. The EU has come out and made it very evident that they are not our friends. You know who has proven to be more of our friends than our so-called friends and allies? Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, the Arab states. They are the ones that are actually showing that they are willing to get a little gritty. Not very gritty, but just a little gritty. They're the ones that when you're in a fight, they sneakily come in and they sucker punch the guy on the side of the head, and then they go back into the crowd, right? And they pretend like they never did it. But the only one that's there standing with us the entire time is Israel. Take with that whatever you want, guys. Whatever you want. Hang on. Apologies, guys. So Israel's showing that they really are the only friends we have out there, guys. It really is. It's not our problem. Like, everything else is not our problem. F the EU. Cut them off. But here's another thing that I've been thinking, right? What if the plan is to get out of NATO? Just crush NATO. Be like, this Iran war is a perfect disguise for that. You know why? Because now, not only does it give us justification to get out of NATO, but we get to start moving assets out of NATO, right? We can start moving our hardware, our military, our personnel. We can start relocating them to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Israel. We can start moving our bombs, all of our assets. And we can say, oh, we're going to use this for Iran, right? And so this war can actually give us a disguise when really all we're doing is we're just moving everything that's worth moving out of these NATO countries. And then once we have most of what is, desired out of there, leave some Humvees, who cares? Now, it's just a armored truck, who cares? Leave some guns, who cares? But once we get all of our ammunitions, our missiles, our people, our helicopters, our jets, who cares about the minor stuff, right? And then be like, hey, you know what, guys? You're on your own. But what about the rest of your stuff? You can have it. It's all yours. Keep it. Keep that 80-year-old plane that we left there. Keep the little M16s, with the 5,000 rounds. You can go ahead and keep that. It's all yours. Use it. This is a perfect way to relocate all of our assets and get the hell out of NATO. Because one more time, they have proven that we are not friends. And here's the thing. Our president, President Trump, was not asking them to join the fight. He was asking them to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Just keep it safe for transportation, to keep things flowing through, right? That's all he wanted. And that's not in our benefit, that's in their benefit, because they're the ones that primarily use it. And they were still like, can't do it. They can't even, for their own benefit, dedicate a little bit of their Navy to keep the straits open for their own benefit. That's what he was asking. He wasn't asking for them to, send their Navy ships and to start launching ammunitions and stuff like that. No, it was just send your Navy, protect the straits, keep it open. So that way commerce can commence and keep flowing. He wasn't asking for their help in regards to the actual bombardment and what we're doing out there. He was just saying, hey guys, come help us keep this strait open. They were like, can't do it, President Trump. And it goes to show you that these aren't serious people. And because of that, it's the perfect excuse to demolish NATO. Get rid of it, get out of it. Use this opportunity to relocate anything worth relocating under the guise of, we need this to continue attacking Iran. Once we relocate anything worth relocating, then we can be like, hey guys, peace. I hope that makes sense. And so I'm not a military strategist. And there's people a billion times smarter than me. And I think there's some form of discussion of that actually happening. So if this Iran thing drags out for an extra 2-3 weeks, a month, 2 months, I'm okay with that if that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm okay with paying higher gas prices for a couple extra months if that's exactly what they're doing. Because I, for one, don't see the benefit of being in NATO. Not being in NATO, being the head of NATO. I don't see the benefits. It doesn't benefit us. Maybe at one point in time it did, but no, it no longer does. So why continue this show? Why keep playing along with it? Just let it die. And let these people fend for themselves. That right there is America first. And so while all these people that come on here, onto YouTube or Rumble or any other platform, and all they do is say this is not America first. Well, you know what, guys? That's because you're looking at it through the lens of, does it benefit President Trump or does it hurt President Trump? And I'm looking at Does it benefit America or does it hurt America? And getting out of NATO and allowing whatever to happen, and then saying F NATO, that's a benefit to us. I don't see how anybody can not say that. And there's talks of it, there's rumblings of it that, like, is he really considering this? And I really do believe that he is. I really do, guys. I just think that if you don't see it, it's because you're too focused on President Trump and not what's happening around. And to all the people, the Dave Smiths, the Joe Rogans, and all these other people, the Nick Fuentes, the Stephen A. Smiths, we don't really care what you people have to say. You are not MAGA. You were never MAGA. You were people who were trying to survive. So you jumped on the bandwagon because you saw that the people you were supporting went full crazy and you were looking for a way out. And then a lot of you people moved for what you kept voting for. You relocated to the tinfoil hat area, the Bible thumpers, the gun thumpers, and now you're jumping off the train because it's getting a little too spicy. Guys, we never asked you to jump on the bandwagon. You're the ones that did it because you created a mess. You ran away from the mess. You ran to the people that all you ever did was talk shit about. And you got everything you wanted. And now you're trying to go backwards. And for that, what I say is, go home. Joe Rogan, go back home to Los Angeles. You created that. That is your mess. Not just yours, but you were a large proponent for it. Texas should have never allowed you to move into that state. All these New Yorkers, all these Californians, all these people that ran to Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Oklahoma, Arizona, they should have never, ever allowed you people to run away. They should have turned your ass around and been like, nope, you all created New York. Go home. Fix your state. But like cowards, these people ran. They ran. They created a mess and they ran. I am a firm believer that these people should not have the opportunity or the right to leave their state because they are the ones that funded it, pushed it, and just kept instigating it. And then when it got to the end point, they were like, oh shit. Woo, not what I was expecting. No, you need to go home. All these states proposing a wealth tax and actually passing a wealth tax and all this other crazy stuff, you need to go home and you need to pay that tax. You need to let these Democrats liquidate the hell out of you because that's what you pushed. That was you. That was nobody else. That was you. You did that. That wasn't Texans. That wasn't Oklahomanians, whatever they're. That wasn't Arizonians, Tennesseans, Floridians. No, bro. That was you. That was you New Yorkers, you Californians, you Washington people. You need to go home. You need to fix your state. You're the ones that created the mess, and you should have to live with it. This idea that you can just run to another country, another state, disgusts me. Because you left all the people who don't have the money to just up and leave like this with the problem. You left them with the mess. Now they're stuck because they don't have political capital. You left them with the mess. You left them with the bag. You essentially pumped and dumped on them. And it's not okay that you get to just leave with all your money, all your wealth, and avoid everything that you created. It's just not. That's my opinion on that. I think President Trump's doing a phenomenal job. I I really didn't want this whole Iran thing to happen, but I understand it, and I think if we get the appropriate outcomes, which it looks like we are, right? One of the most common things I hear is there's no plan. It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, and it's chaotic, and there's like what's happening, guys. We're 3 weeks in. The country's been not the country. Anything that matters has been destroyed, with the exception of how the country makes money. All the top leadership are dead. We gave the Iranian people an opportunity to seize the moment and seize their freedom. We weakened China. We built new alliances. We found out who really were our friends. And it does look like they are relocating assets from these NATO countries. How can you say there's not a plan? Within 2 weeks, we had full air control to do any and everything we want. Like, you're either being willfully ignorant or you're being deceptive. And I think it's being deceptive. I don't understand. I do understand why. It's because at the end of the day, these people revolve their life and the way they think around how they feel about President Trump. And that's so dangerous, guys. President Trump is not the corner of the earth, the edge of the earth. He's not. And when Cuba becomes free and open, and those people get the opportunity to see their country, which has been decimated by dictators, and they get to see it prosper. God, man, nobody deserves to live under such ugliness. And we have too many Americans that are retards saying retarded shit about places they've never been to, places they've never lived, dictators they've never lived under, but they're so confident in how and what they say. When the people who came here ran away from those places are saying, guys, no, you have everything wrong. They're like, no, you just don't understand how amazing you had it. You don't understand how amazing you had it under the Castros, under the Khomeinis, the Khomeinis, under the Chavezes. You don't understand. You had it amazing. Bro, I just left last week. It's nothing like what you're saying. But we have too many Americans that don't know anything about anything, but their opinions are so strong about it. And it's always in favor of the worst people. And it's the craziest thing to me. That was actually the largest part of what I want to talk about. There are other things, man. But that's the essentially the meat on the bones I wanted to cover. I see what's happening in Iran, and I'm just like, wow. I saw what happened to Maduro out in Venezuela, and I'm like, wow. I see what's happening with Cuba right now, and I'm like, wow. And every single point, we are weakening China. And that's the ultimate thing, because China has infiltrated our country. They have. They own so many of our politicians. They own a lot of our infrastructure. We allowed a soft coup. And when I say we, I'm talking about our politicians. They allowed a soft coup, a soft takeover by China. And what I see is us regaining that, taking it back piece by piece, from the Panama Canal all the way up. And What we're doing is we're getting rid of old friends, and we're finding out that they're not really our friends. These guys right here, these guys appear to be our friends. And I have a lot to say about the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia. But one thing you cannot take away from them is when things hit the fan, they're the only ones willing to stand with us. And even if it means that all they're doing during a rumble is quietly jumping in, sucker punching the guy we're fighting on the side of the head, and then going back to the crowd, you know what? That's better than all of our friends because they are doing nothing. They're right there with their cell phones and they're recording that. They're doing nothing. When all they had to do was make sure that nobody jumped in. That's all they were asked. Like, hey, make sure nobody jumps in. Somebody jumps in, bro, make sure that you get them out the fight. And it's for their benefit. The straight-headed moose, that's not for our benefit. That's all I got. Peace.